There is a specific, private ritual that millions of people perform every single night. It happens behind closed doors, in the intimacy of the bedroom, in that fragile space between being awake and being asleep. They get into bed, they pull up the covers, they adjust the pillows, and then, right before they close their eyes, they reach out a hand. They reach for a remote, or a phone, or a fan switch. They turn on a podcast of strangers talking about true crime, letting the grisly details lull them into a state of peace. They put on a sitcom they've seen 100 times, The Office or Friends, lowering the volume just enough so it's a murmur, a familiar hum of dialogue where they know exactly what comes next. They blast a box fan in the middle of winter, burying themselves under 3 blankets because the room is freezing, but refusing to turn it off because they need the drone. They scroll through TikToks until the phone literally falls out of their hand and hits their chest. For these people, the most terrifying sound in the world is not a scream, it is not a siren, it is the click of the device turning off. It is the sudden, heavy drop of silence. Because when the noise stops, something else begins. If you are one of these people, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know the specific, visceral panic that rises in your chest when the internet cuts out at 2 a.m. You know the desperate scramble to find a charger because the battery is at 1%, and if the phone dies, you will be left alone in the dark. You know the feeling of the midnight judge waiting for the room to go quiet so the trial can begin. Society calls this bad sleep hygiene. Doctors tell you to turn off screens 2 hours before bed. Sleep experts tell you to embrace the quiet, to meditate, to practice mindfulness. But they are missing the point. You aren't keeping the noise on because you are bored. You aren't keeping it on because you are entertained. You are keeping the noise on because you are running. You are running from the thoughts that wait for you in the dark. You are running from the memories that only come out when the sun goes down. You are running from yourself. And tonight, we are going to look at why. On the surface, needing noise to sleep looks like a quirky habit. Maybe you tell people, I just can't sleep when it's too quiet, or I need the background noise to focus. But psychologically, it is a sophisticated, deeply entrenched defense mechanism. It is a shield against what psychologists call intrusive rumination. Think about your day. From the moment you wake up, your brain is occupied. It is processing work emails, traffic, conversations, the news, the endless scroll of social media. You are constantly feeding the machine. The noise of the world drowns out the noise in your head. You can go 12, 14, 16 hours without having a single unsupervised thought because you are constantly reacting to external stimuli. But the moment you lay down in a silent room, the external world shuts off, the input stops, and nature abhors a vacuum. When the outside goes quiet, the inside gets loud. For the person who cannot sleep in silence, the bed is not a sanctuary, it is a courtroom. It is the place where your brain starts to file through the unprocessed pile of your life. Suddenly, you are bombarded. You replay the awkward thing you said to your boss 3 years ago. You worry about the text message you didn't send. You question if you are on the right path. You wonder if your friends actually like you. You feel the grief of a breakup you thought you were over. You feel the shame of not being where you thought you would be by this age. The silence acts as a vacuum, sucking up all your repressed anxieties and forcing you to look at them. It demands that you feel the things you have been too busy to feel all day. So you turn on the noise. The noise is a countermeasure. Psychologists call this cognitive distraction. By giving your brain something external to focus on, a story, a voice, a melody, you occupy the part of your mind that wants to attack you. You are filling the bandwidth. You are choosing to listen to the voices of strangers because they are kinder than the voice in your own head. But there is a second, deeper layer to this. It isn't just about distracting yourself from anxiety, it is about the fear of abandonment. For many people, silence doesn't just feel peaceful, it feels empty. It feels like isolation. If you struggle with loneliness, or if you live alone, the silence of a bedroom can feel heavy, almost suffocating. It reminds you, viscerally, that there is no one else there. It amplifies the distance between you and the rest of the world. Turning on a podcast or a Twitch stream or a YouTube video creates a psychological phenomenon known as parasocial presence. The human brain is evolutionary ancient. It is easily tricked. When it hears human voices, laughing, talking, arguing, even if those voices are coming from a speaker, it releases a small amount of oxytocin. It signals to the nervous system, the tribe is nearby, you are not alone, you are safe. For the lonely person, the TV isn't entertainment, it is a simulated heartbeat. It is a digital nightlight for the soul. It allows you to drift off, feeling like you are sleeping in a room full of friends, rather than sleeping in a void. It creates the illusion of intimacy without the demand of reciprocity. The people on the screen won't leave you, they won't judge you, they won't ask you how your day was when you don't have the energy to answer. They will just keep talking until you fall asleep. Now, let's go deeper. Let's look at the hypervigilant brain. This is often where the habit is rooted in trauma. If you grew up in a chaotic household, or if you have experienced a time in your life where you were physically or emotionally unsafe, your brain may have rewired itself to view silence as dangerous. In nature, silence is often a predator cue. The forest goes quiet right before the attack. The bird stops singing when the hawk is near. For a trauma survivor, silence creates a state of high alert. When the room is quiet, you hear everything. You hear the creak of the floorboards, you hear the wind against the window, you hear the sound of your own breath, and your brain starts to scan for threats. What was that sound? Is someone there? Am I safe? Paradoxically, white noise, the sound of a fan or rain or static, makes these people feel safer. It creates a wall of sound. This is called sensory gating. By creating a constant, predictable noise, you mask the small, unpredictable noises that trigger the fight or flight response. You are controlling the sensory environment. You are creating a controlled chaos to prevent the uncontrolled chaos of fear. You are building a sonic fortress where you can finally let your guard down. But where does this start? If we trace the wire back to childhood, we often find the unprocessed child. Maybe you were the child who lived in a home where there was too much fighting. You learned early on that the only way to escape the shouting matches downstairs was to put on headphones. You blasted music to drown out the anger. You learned that headphones were a wall. You learned that noise was protection. Or maybe you were the latchkey kid, the one who came home to an empty house every day. You learned that the silence of the house was scary because it meant no one was coming to check on you. So you turned on the TV the second you walked in the door, just to fill the empty space. You learned that noise meant company. Or maybe you were the good child, the high achiever, the perfectionist. This is the child who is constantly performing. You spent your whole day holding it together, smiling when you wanted to scream, working when you wanted to rest. And you know deep down that if you let yourself sit in silence, the mask will slip. You are terrified that if you stop moving, if you stop consuming, you will collapse. You will feel the exhaustion you have been outrunning. You will feel the sadness you have been hiding. So the noise becomes a way to stay numb. It keeps you in a state of shallow processing. It allows you to drift into unconsciousness without ever actually having to check in with yourself. It is a way of skipping the meeting with your own soul. This connects to a modern phenomenon called revenge bedtime procrastination. This is when people who feel they have no control over their daytime life stay up late at night to regain a sense of freedom. But for the noise sleeper, it's not just about freedom, it's about avoidance. You stay up watching one more episode, listening to one more chapter, not because you are interested, but because you are afraid of the transition. You are afraid of that 10-minute gap between awake and asleep where the thoughts can get in. So you try to pass out, you try to crash, you try to fatigue your brain with so much information that it simply shuts down before it has a chance to think. But there is a cost to this, and it is a cost that most people don't realize until years later. When you cannot sleep without noise, you are effectively severing the relationship with yourself. Think about it. The moments before sleep are some of the only moments in modern life where we are truly, completely alone. They are the moments where our brain tries to process the day. It tries to file away memories. It tries to make sense of our emotions. It appears to connect the dots of our lives. When you constantly drown that out with external noise, you are preventing that processing. You are creating a backlog of unfelt feelings. That grief you didn't have time for, it's still there. That anger you swallowed at work, it's still there. That confusing sadness you felt on the drive home, it's still there. They are all waiting in the queue. And the more you drown them out, the louder they become. The pressure builds. This is why, if the power goes out or your headphones break, you feel that sudden irrational surge of panic. It's not just boredom, it's the backlog crashing through the dam. It's the terror of facing a stranger in the mirror. You are living in a state of chronic distraction. You are terrified that if you face the silence, you won't like who you find there. You are terrified that you are boring, or that you are broken, or that you are dark. But here is the irony. The silence you are running from is the only thing that can actually heal you. There is a concept in neuroscience called the default mode network. It is the network in the brain that activates when we are doing nothing, when we are daydreaming or staring at the ceiling or lying in the dark. For people with anxiety or depression, the DMN can be a painful place. It is where self-criticism lives. It is where rumination happens. But it is also where creativity lives. It is where problem-solving lives. It is where self-understanding lives. It is the place where we construct our sense of self. By constantly sedating this network with podcasts and TV shows, you are protecting yourself from the pain, yes, but you are also cutting yourself off from the wisdom. You are blocking the very signals your mind is trying to send you. Your brain isn't keeping you awake to torture you. It is keeping you awake because it has something to say. It is tugging on your sleeve, like a child wanting to show you a drawing, saying, "Hey, we need to look at this. We need to process this hurt. We need to admit this fear." And by turning up the volume, you are slamming the door in its face. You are telling your own inner self that it is not worth listening to, that it is less interesting than a rerun of a sitcom, that it is too scary to be in a room with. So, if you are the person who sleeps with the TV on, if you are the person who needs the fan in December, I want you to know that I see you. I know that you aren't doing it to be difficult. You are doing it to survive. You are doing it because the quiet feels like a threat. You are doing it because you have survived a lot, and your brain is trying to keep you safe the only way it knows how, by staying alert, by staying distracted, by staying guarded. But I also want to invite you to try something terrifying. One night, maybe not tonight, but soon, I want you to try to turn the volume down. Just a little. Try to set a timer so the noise turns off after 20 minutes, leaving you in the silence before you are fully asleep. Try to ask yourself, right before you reach for the remote, what am I afraid I will hear if I don't turn this on? Are you afraid of a memory? Are you afraid of a worry about the future? Are you afraid of the physical sensation of your own heartbeat? Are you afraid of the feeling of being alone? Name the fear. Acknowledge it. Treat it like a guest in the room, rather than a monster under the bed. Say to it, "I hear you. I know you are there." Because the truth is, the silence is not empty. It is full. It is full of you. It is full of your dreams, your insights, your healing. And you are not as scary as you think you are. You are just a person who has been running for a long time. You are a person who has carried a heavy load, and you are afraid that if you stop, the weight will crush you. But it won't. If you stop, if you let the noise fade, if you let the silence wash over you, you might find that the weight drops. You might find that the monsters under the bed are just shadows. And maybe, just maybe, if you let the room go quiet, you won't hear a judge. You won't hear a critic. You won't hear the echo of your own loneliness. You will hear the sound of your own breath. You will hear the sound of a person who has survived everything up until this moment. You will hear the quiet, steady rhythm of your own life. And you will realize that you don't need the voices of strangers to keep you safe. You are safe with yourself. You are safe in the quiet. You are safe in the dark. And it is time to rest.